My name is Chrissy Burney. I am going to Rasmussen University for the nursing program. Other schools, I feel like, didn't see me for who I am. I'm working a full-time job and wanting to be a nurse. Rasmussen says, hey, we have a program that you can accelerate in. If you put in the work, we're going to help you, we're going to support you, and we're going to get you there.
Rasmussen University. Are you ready to answer the call? Online and on campus. Learn more at rasmussen.edu.
Hi, I'm Pat Helmers, and this is Sales Babble. So when I was a student at Southern Illinois University, I think it was my senior year, I was studying computer science, and I think it was in March. In fact, I know it was in March that spring break was coming up, and the guys that I lived with, we were all trying to decide what to do for spring break. It was gray, it was cold, it was wet. It's the way March is in Illinois. And one of them asked the question, I wonder what the weather is like down in Florida. What are the temperatures at Daytona Beach? I'd never been to Florida. So it was a curious thought. And it was like in the 70s, and it was peaking to the 80s at times. And one of them said, why don't we go? Let's just drive down. We can, if we trade off, we can probably be down there in a day, hang out for a few days, and then come on back. And they all chatted and talked about it, and we thought, what a great idea. What an adventure. I had lived a very sheltered life. I'd never been anywhere in my whole life. It was quite the adventure. And just as they were getting ready to go, it just occurred to me, Pat, you can't go. I was completely broke. I had no money. I'm certain we could have done it pretty much on the cheap, but just to purchase gasoline, I also had stuff to do. Maybe I could have studied. I could have gotten some better grades. If anything, I probably should have been putting in more hours and working more. The whole thing, it just occurred to me. I just got frightened of the whole thing, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm not going to go. And I backed out, and my friends took off, and they went to Florida. About 5, maybe 6 years ago on Facebook, these guys that I lived with, we're talking like Pete and Jeff and Nick and Leon, and they posted a photo on Facebook of them on the beach. And they look so happy. They ended up like sleeping on the beach. They ended up like hustling people for food. I'm certain it was just hilarious, and they just had a wonderful time. That memory of not doing something has stuck with me all my life. It's something I really regret. I regret that I didn't do it. And the interesting thing about that regret is that it has powered me and motivated me in the future to not make that same mistake. And because of that, I've had the opportunity to travel to, I think, 22 countries and to live in Asia and to visit almost all the states in the United States and a number of the provinces in Canada and Mexico. It's been the fuel to motivate me to travel. And I was just having this conversation last week with somebody, and if I look back through my life, the things I regret are not the mistakes that I made, but are the things that I failed to do. Which brings me to the point of today's episode. As you know from the last episode that I published, that my son passed, and it's been devastating for me and my wife and my sons and family. I've been fortunate to have the love and the caring and the nurturing of great friends and family, which has made a big difference. But a day doesn't go by where I'm saddened and I can't believe in my heart that my son is no longer here with us. It's awful and it's painful. And it's given me pause to reflect and to consider really how I want to spend the rest of my life, because Tim's passing makes it all so clear that everything that we have is temporary, temporal, brief. Like smoke, it dissipates and it's soon gone. And with that knowledge, I don't want to have any regrets on what I want to do with the rest of my life. Which is why I've paused all my podcasting, why I've stopped. Because what I've been doing in the past just doesn't speak to me anymore. And quite honestly, this isn't something new. This is something that's been on my mind this year, that I want to go a different course, that I want to do something different. I've really enjoyed podcasting. And it's really something that I've been quite successful. It's a skill that a lot of people wish that they had. I remember a good friend of mine tried to start a podcast a couple years ago. And he started episode after episode after episode. And I said, it just takes time. It just takes time. And I go, listen to how awful my first episode was. And I sent him the link. And he goes, oh, my goodness. Your first episode is 1,000% better than anything he'd ever produced. And he came to the realization that podcasting is not for him. And it's something I don't really appreciate, what I'm able to do. Which is true for all of us sometimes. We don't appreciate the skills that we have. We envy other people that have skills that we don't have, but don't have enough self-awareness to realize that you have enough. It's just different. You have a lot to contribute to the world. It's just different. So I'm asking myself these questions these days: how can I use this power of podcasting to express what's important to me, and maybe somehow, some way, better the world? There's been a couple projects that I've been on the last couple of years. One's in the space of hemp. Another's in the space of IoT technologies. And I'm studying quite a bit about artificial intelligence, large language models, economics, weaknesses in capitalism, where it's struggling in the world. Some people think of it as late-stage capitalism or crony capitalism. And I've also been studying sustainability, the environment. I've been doing a lot of volunteer work in that space. How do all these things that interest me, how do I wrap them all up into something that speaks to what I want to be? It speaks to how I want to spend the rest of my life. That's the question that's in my head. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Back when I was an engineer at Bell Laboratories, we wrote telecommunications software. And Bell Laboratories was an amazing place. The facility I was at was huge. We had 10,000 people spread across 5 or 6 buildings on a campus. And I worked with some really, really smart people who were interested in all kinds of things. And there was one group of people that I became very close friends with, and we started a book reading club that would meet over lunch like once a month. And we called it Dining Philosophers. We would read all kinds of books on psychology, books on philosophy, sometimes books on history, books on religion and faith. It was pretty darn fun. And get this, one day, one of the morning TV shows, the Today Show I think it was, came out and actually videoed us talking and built a little clip, and we were on national TV of a group of people who had created a book club. And funny enough, United Airlines took that little segment and put it on their planes so that when you take off, you watch those little news shows, we were on there briefly. Dining Philosophers gave me a place where I could talk about something that I didn't know anything about and be able to question people who wouldn't necessarily judge me for asking dumb questions. The French were famous for having places like this in the 19th century. They called them salons. But having a place outside of work and outside of home to have these kinds of conversations, it was a very powerful experience. We call these places the third place. And here in the 2020s, the third place is disappearing. The third place could be things like restaurants, church, the library, music venues, taverns, and bars. In these days, people aren't going to these third places. Instead, they're using technologies which at first blush seem like great time savers. Why should I go shopping where I can order my food and it'll just show up in a cardboard box? What a time saver. Why should I drive to work and all the troubles that I have with traffic and whatnot when I can just stay home? Or why should I even have a conversation with people when I'm with them when I can sit on my phone and doom scroll because of the addictive properties of the AI software that's in social media? And then we wonder why people feel lonely. People have never been more anxious. Why people are so unhappy and they feel that the world is not going in the right direction. People don't have friends to talk to open up about with their troubles and their issues. And they have struggles finding mates. And there's just a deep disconnection with humanity. That troubles me immensely. And that's something that I want to talk about. And that's something I believe is worth looking at and discussing. And I can't help but think that that's a path that I want to go down somehow, some way, when it comes to sharing my voice here at the microphone. Everything that we have is temporary. And with that knowledge, I don't want to have any regrets on what I want to do with the rest of my life. So that's what I'm working on these days. And for now, right now, I want to do it here on Sales Babble. Of course, it begs the question, what's this got to do with sales? Well, salespeople are people too. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find this journey that I'm on. Maybe some way you can identify with it and find it of interest. Maybe you have some thoughts on what I ought to do. Maybe you have some advice. If you do, send them to me. I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. Send me an email. If you go to salesbabble.com and click the Babble Me button, that'll send a message right to me. That's all I've got for today. Until next time, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
This is a production of Habanero Media.
Time for new tires? Thousands of customers have already experienced the convenience of Tire Rack mobile tire installation. Here's what you do. Go to TireRack.com, find the tires you want, or get expert recommendations via their Tire Decision Guide, where you answer a few questions about how and where you drive and receive top tire recommendations tailored just for you. Select mobile installation at checkout and let Tire Rack bring the installation to you. Their highly trained technicians will deliver and install your new tires at your home, work, or anywhere in between. Their specially engineered vans have everything needed to mount, balance, and install your tires at a location convenient for you. What would you do with the time you could save? Skip the trip with Tire Rack mobile installation. Tire Rack, great selection, always fast and free shipping, convenient installation, and free road hazard protection. Get started at TireRack.com. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.